Are you ready to go on an adventure? Tag along with Boston Kid Friendly Radio. Today, we're going to downtown Crossing.
Hi, so this is Kara. We are discussing Downtown Crossing today. So my whole family went on this trip. That would be all three of our children and my husband, though the actual rundown of the stop will just be me. And that's just this time under circumstances. So we will go through everything just like we explained in the opening episode, that we'll have a place to eat, a place to play, a point of interest, that will also highlight a grocery store and extra important information, or maybe not extra important, but important extra information. And just remember that this is a kid-friendly podcast. So not only are we trying to highlight kid-friendly for Boston, but we're trying to make it kid-friendly for us. So we're getting to have family memories to do this, but in so doing, we also have other jobs and we also have other responsibilities. So if you hear things in the background, or maybe one of our episodes has an echo, or you hear trains and planes and cars, or babies crying, just know that we are trying to give you the best information that we can with the time that we're given. So, starting off, a place to eat. So we actually settled on Five Guys. The reason why we decided to go with Five Guys is because it had clean bathrooms. They are locked. In fact, you have to have a receipt from your purchase to get the code to get into the bathrooms. But they're clean. They have a changing table. They're just all around great restrooms. The restaurant as a whole has average American food that most kids enjoy. You can even share some milkshakes as a family afterwards. And there's plenty of room. So when we went on our Downtown Crossing adventure, we took 2 strollers. We took our Uppa Baby and we also took our Double Bob. So if you are unfamiliar with them, the Uppa Baby Vista is more of a traditional stroller that goes forward, so to speak, if you have the second seat. The Double Bob is side by side. It does fit through a normal single door. It does not fit on the bus, just in case you are curious. But if you're going on the T, it does fit. So for Downtown Crossing, we actually took both of our strollers. So something that you should know is that at Five Guys, after you order, at the front, if you have a double wide stroller, you may not be able to make it between the register and the seating area. There's plenty of room to have the strollers. Like I said, we had 2, but the double stroller had to go around. And so I mentioned that because if there's a long line, you don't want to get in line with that stroller. You're going to get stuck or make a lot of people mad. But other than that, it's a great fit. There's crayons and paper at the back by a bulletin board. And just in general, it's a great place to go. So there are a lot of other places around Downtown Crossing for families to eat. And there's just a lot of good options in general. You're going to have street vendors, especially depending on your time of year. So we spent, I think, $4 and got a lemonade at one of them. But there are also food options as well. You can go to Sweet Green. There are also fast food places like Wendy's and McDonald's. I feel like Five Guys doesn't quite fit the fast food mold, but isn't quite like off the beaten path enough. But at the same time, like, we wanted something that we could sit down inside, have a restroom, and kind of recharge for our day. And so that's why we personally chose Five Guys. The place to play is Post Office Park. So it's kind of equidistant between State and Downtown Crossing. And maybe some people would argue that it's more towards State. But the way that everything is laid out on a map, it's more logical to go ahead and go play at Post Office Park with Downtown Crossing. So I think the actual closest park to Downtown Crossing is Boston Common and the Frog Pond and all of that. But obviously Park Street, exit or T-stop is going to be more ideal. So head over to Post Office Park because it's a great little park. It's not necessarily a playground, but they do have a little splash pad area, which is super cute. Our kids had a lot of fun at it. If you bring Bubbles along, and actually, our point of interest, and I'll come back to it, was Primark, and we bought Bubbles at Primark, and we took them to Post Office Park. And so our kids ran around with Bubbles, and we relaxed and played in the water, and there's even a little cafe there. It's just a really, really, really great place to play and recharge. And so, like I said before, our point of interest is Primark. And so it may seem a little bit odd that that's the point of interest, but it's really the perfect point of interest for Downtown Crossing. And it's something to go ahead and keep on your list, especially if you're an out-of-towner, to come back to if you need it. The reason being is, one, they have very inexpensive clothing. So, there was one time that a relative came into town whenever my son was born, and one of the kids in the family had an accident whenever we were taking the tea. And so when we got off at Downtown Crossing, we were able to get a $3 pair of pants and a package of underwear for under $5. And I mean, so it was great in that sense. They also have bathrooms. They also have plenty of seating areas. If your phone is dying, then you can either use a cable that you might have on hand or buy a really inexpensive cable for under $5 and plug it in, because they do have a charging area. If you are a breastfeeding mom, there's places that you can feed. It's 4 stories. There's a lot to explore. So if you've never been to Primark, or if you don't realize that it's such a great point of interest in terms of charging your phone, having restrooms, and the whole 9 yards, check it out. I mean, you're going to have to go into the main entrance that's on the corner, because if you have a stroller, because it's the only place that doesn't have steps. There are luxuriously large elevators. Just in general, really great point of interest. So the grocery store is Roach Brothers. There's also a cafe around the corner, but for this, I guess I'll highlight Roach Brothers in that you can have deli meats, you can get drinks and that sort of thing. There is also, there's also a CVS and Walgreens nearby if you need to get diapers or pouches. And so then some other little pieces of information. Cash on hand, if you're going to eat at any of the vendors, then you may want to have some cash. A lot of them will go ahead and accept cards, but sometimes it's just easier. So like I said, the lemonade was $4. So that's kind of average, I think, for food vendors. And then total, I think we spent for our family of 5 around $50, including a meal. So if you pack a meal, then you'll spend even less. Or if you get food at Roach Brothers or a deli, then you're probably going to spend less than actually eating out. Whenever you are leaving Downtown Crossing, if you're going to get on the orange line, whether you are going north or south, there are a few tricks to know. There's an amphitheater near Millennium Tower, and behind it, there's an elevator to go north on the orange line. So if you're going north on the orange line, go ahead and go to that amphitheater. If you are standing inside of Downtown Crossing and feel disoriented, find Primark and then look for Old Navy and go towards Old Navy behind Primark, and you will be headed in the correct direction. And then if you need an elevator to go to the orange line headed south, or I think also it's a good elevator to go to the red line, you can do that in Roach Brothers. So that's also very easy to just head into Roach Brothers, use that elevator, and go down that way. The other thing is if you don't have a Charlie card, Downtown Crossing is the ideal place to get one. They are open, I believe, Monday through Friday. Probably typical business hours. You can look it up on the MBTA's website. But in all, that's why we started at Downtown Crossing. It seems like a logical starting point because you can get your Charlie card and you kind of get a good flavor for the city if you're a visitor. And if you're a local, it just has a lot of fun things to do. And it kind of gets the ball rolling if you're planning on following us along. So, since this is our first official episode, please also know that we have lots of great resources on BostonKidFriendly.com. You can find our shop, and don't let the word shop deter you. There are free things in it. Like I've got great free printables, including one of like those cootie catcher paper games where you can use it to figure out where you're going to go on the tee next, just as a random type of adventure. You can find t-shirts, you can find memberships, because beyond just the typical tee stops as a family, we have things like Parents Night Out and extra episodes and Boston Kid Friendly Getaways and Boston Kid Friendly Day Trips. So there are going to be lots and lots of resources that you can find in the shop. You can also find our Facebook group, our Facebook page. You can find us on Pinterest. You can find me, Cara Carrero, on Twitter. Just in general, we're going to be on social media, so engage with us. Use the hashtag Boston Kid Friendly and some of the other ones, and we would love to see what you're doing and go along with your adventures with Charlie. So until next time, I will talk to you later.